So managing your time effectively, this is the area that faculty generally have trouble with, regardless of what they're teaching, from a fully online to a face-to-face and everything in between. Make an agenda for the live sessions and set milestones. Set time goals for each activity. So you say groups, you have 10 minutes to do the following things. And then you don't just tell them what the following things are. You give them a handout digitally or in person saying, here are three questions I would like everybody to frame, their responses with. And let the students know what the agenda and the goals are because they'll actually use their time a lot better when they know that you're really going to hold them to the time assigned. Okay? You need to hold students accountable for their asynchronous and synchronous tasks and activities. So when you're doing a lot of group work in class, it's important to walk around and actually look at what the students are doing. Now, I do something that's incredibly old school analog. I print out a list of the students and in the groups I put them in, and I actually put pluses and minuses next to the names where I see a lot of participation or not. So if I see students doing a lot, I'll do plus, 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 or, I'll have minus and plus, which shows the student has done some. And this just gives me a holistic guide to what the activity was. And I don't measure every minute. I look for the overall trends of performance. But holding them accountable, and if I were to say, Jose, I see in group work you're sitting back and you're really quiet, you can say, what's the problem? And he might say, well, how do you know that I'm being quiet? And I'll say, well, I'm observing you, in your working environment, and maybe I'm missing something. So help me here. It's not meant to be why aren't you doing or bad boy. It's really much more how can we facilitate a better interaction.
Right.
Okay. And also, this is something Jose and I talk about a lot. Faculty tend to say, I'm going to give you a grade. You don't give them a grade, they earn the grade. And if you emphasize the earn part, then they will understand that there's a connection. It's not just because they're being super nice to you. And, it's like when a lot of faculty get requests for recommendations, they'll say, Dear Professor, your class was inspirational and amazing for me. It changed my life. Now, can I have a recommendation for 11 different schools? And, so sometimes they're schmoozing and selling just like many of us do in our own business world. But if they understand that they're earning each step along the way, you have a much better basis for discussion about performance. And again, it doesn't mean everything has to be an A or a B or so on. It could just be complete or incomplete with feedback. And that's a little harder for you to do because you have to give good feedback. But if you make everything a grade, then they're just going to jump for the grade. And that could be very, it can disincentivize students who are having a hard time keeping up. So in closing, I just wanted to show you a few pictures of my classes. My students give me permission to use these pictures whenever I shoot in the classroom. I have their agreement. But what you're looking at is in the upper right-hand corner, students working as a class to solve problems. And in this particular case, what you're looking at is we were working on a specific topic, and I asked people to write down on stickies different aspects of the problem, right? What is the social aspect? What is the mechanical aspect? What is the design challenge? And now they're sorting them out together. And what I do is when I see a large group working like this, I'll rotate them. I'll say, okay, you've been at the board a while. Why don't you step back and somebody else come in and work? And I'm in the back watching. I do not, even though people who know me know I love to talk, in the classroom, I love to get them to do the work. Okay. And I do love to talk too much sometimes. So I have to watch the windage. And I recommend that you do that too. On the left, you'll see a smaller group. I like groups of 2 or 3 largely. and here's a group of students who are working on something. And you may notice there's a piece of paper perched on the laptop. That is a brief that I gave the students to help them frame their discussion. They know they have a certain amount of time to do it and report back. And here are students working in pairs. And once again, the paper that you see is most likely a handout I have given them. And sometimes I start the class by putting them right into group work and I give them the handout and then I give them 10 or 15 minutes and then we move on to discussion. So, Jose, the combination of the inside, outside, inside is really, really important to always think about balancing. But the human to human part, right, is really important.
Yeah, no, I just want to add to that, Jeffrey, you're great at creating a safe place in your classroom. You can clearly see by these photos. I mean, your students are, I mean, this is pre-pandemic, but look how close. I mean, this one student has her arms around the other students. They're working together, and you can see on their faces that they're actually enjoying, and they got smiles on their faces. So I can clearly see that you created a safe place for students to work together, speak up and speak their minds. And I got to tell you, you've accomplished the hardest task, which is creating a safe place. And I'm sure you can speak to other teachers on how you were able to create a safe place like this and have students just be able to talk to each other and have fun while they're learning.
Well, Jose, I would just add that you know how to make people feel safe when you're working with them. Okay, that when faculty come to work with you or I, or both of us, we're unconditionally accepting of what you bring and what you need to do. You should never feel judged. And if you know what it's like to be judged, like when somebody comes in and says, I really know much about technology, I can go, well, what have you been living in a hole for the last 20 years? Or I could say, well, tell me what you do know how to do,
Right.
right? So so anybody who is a faculty member who feels vulnerable because of their lack of experience, for example, with technology or in teaching, should understand that when you approach a student and ask them a question that they can't answer, they feel the same way. So it's got to be okay, but that doesn't mean it's okay every week for every class. It's got to be okay for them to start at different points and gradually grow. Some
Mhm.
grow faster than others. They're never all going to grow at the same time. So these are just examples. This presentation is available to be downloaded as a PDF. And then both the Office of Online Learning and Academic Technology and the CET have ample resources in support of this. And you could speak to Jose or I, and a lot of times Jose and I will collaborate sometimes on some things. But we always collaborate on how we work with the faculty, which is why we are able to agree on even making a presentation like this. So with that, Jose, I think that it's time for everybody to flip, right?
I think so. I think so, Jeffrey. And also keep in mind that you can always schedule a one-on-one session with Jeffrey or myself. Reach out to us. We're always here to help. We won't we won't bite you unless you ask us, but just let us know if you need help and we would definitely be there for you. So, Jeffrey, I don't know what else to say here, but
Well, we have to say goodbye, you know.
yeah, that's right.
It's now it's time for a commercial break. So we're going to leave you and know that you could approach either of us anytime. And we look forward to flipping with you. Take
All right.
care.